The question I get asked the most when it's MasterChef time is, can I gather all my ingredients and then cook at the way end of the event? I've always advised against this for a variety of reasons. However, I've never actually tried this. Again, for a variety of reasons. But y'all know me, I love a good experiment. So for a starch difference, I decided to test this out. On one account, I would play how I usually do and cook as I go. On the other, I would spend almost the entire event gathering ingredients and then on the last day, cook. I won't lie, sometimes I do procrastinate on Culinary Crucibles, but honestly, even then I'm still cooking as I go. The main reasons I advise against cooking at the last minute is that 1, several factors of this event are randomized, and 2, you are severely limited in what you can make if you wait until the last minute. Unlike other events, you can't really predict what you'll get for ingredient drops or what judges you'll get. In the guest room battles, you can figure out how many of the event paint you'll get per battle. If you're doing lessons, you can get a rough estimate of how many event items you'll get. You can figure out the exact numbers for event battles or rhythmics. You simply cannot do that for MasterChef, and because of that, it makes planning extremely difficult. Like, yeah, you might get enough of the ingredients you need, but there's no way to reliably tell what you'll get. It's likely you could get to the end of the event, and if you waited, you might be missing things and therefore miss the end of the event, or you're unable to get the SR limited key. And then of course, if you wait until the last minute to cook, there's simply dishes you won't be able to make. For a starch difference, if you waited until the end to cook and you didn't unlock those last 2 locations, and you didn't do any excursions that last day while you're cooking, you can only make 2 of the 9 recipes. I mean, if you don't care about doing them all, that doesn't really matter, but if you do, it's just, no, you can't wait until the last minute. I livestreamed rushing through the event, and one of my followers, Kronos, pointed out something that I hadn't thought of. If you spend the entire event farming and wait until the last day to cook, if something personal comes up on that last day or there's an internet outage, you're screwed. All that time you spent farming will have been wasted, and you're going to be forced to skip this event because you physically cannot play it. Which, to be honest, I think this is probably the best reason not to play like this. Trying to make a game plan for farming was a literal nightmare. I will admit I started stressed and stayed stressed through this whole event. I gathered info from the wiki and twstsoku, and the numbers are what helped me plan as much as I could. Already, I knew the only 2 recipes I would be able to make are cassava fries and potato salad rolls. And then of course 1 sweet potato gratin since the game gives you ingredients for that. I normally would count this and be like, oh, you can make like 3 dishes, but like, you're only going to be able to make that 1 gratin since it needs things from other places, so like, you're really only doing fries and salad rolls. Before we figure out ingredient amounts, we need to figure out what exactly our goal is. 3-star dishes with high ingredients always give 30 tokens, so our goal is getting our dishes to 3-star quality and also get our skill level up to 100 so we can more or less guarantee 30 tokens per dish. According to the wiki, a 1-star dish makes your skill increase by 4%, a 2-star dish increases by 8%, and a 3-star dish increases by 12%. However, because I would be gathering things and waiting until the last minute to cook, I wanted to be extremely safe in my estimations. So while this is an overestimation, I calculated how many dishes I would make if my skill only grew by 4% each time. It came out to 25 dishes. However, I also did account for numbers using the 60-80 rule, and it came out to 20 dishes. So theoretically, I would need to make a baseline of 20 to 25 dishes per dish to get 3 stars. Oh god, you can tell that I wrote this really late at night. The wonderful admin or admins, I don't know how many people are involved in it, over at twstsoku have calculated the score ranges for dishes. According to them, a 1-star dish ranges from 4 to 13 points, 2 stars 14 to 20, and 3 stars 21 to 30. Now, while I did use these numbers for estimates, I did make the 1-star range 3 to 13, because I don't know about y'all, but I get 3 points for some dishes. I took the averages for these ranges, so the average score per low, medium, high dishes are 8, 17, and 25. Using these numbers and the dish amounts we calculated earlier, I'm using 25, you theoretically would earn a grand total of 330 tokens per recipe while trying to hit 100%. Add 20 for missions, and that's 350 tokens. Multiply that by 2, and that's 700 tokens. That's great, but the event end only comes when you earn 1,000 tokens, and the SR limited key costs 1,200. So we need to be doing more dishes even after we max out the recipes. If we use high quality ingredients, we'll be getting guaranteed 3-star dishes, which will give us 30 tokens. Dividing things up, we'll need to do an additional 9 dishes per recipe to get enough for the SR limited key. If we have to cook each recipe 25 times, that additional 9 makes it 34. And initially, I started planning for that, but let's be real here, even though they're average scores, we're not going to be hitting it every single time. So I decided to make each dish 40 times just to compensate and have those 6 dishes be something of a safety net. Although honestly, even with a pretty big safety net, I was still really nervous. But by the time I was finalizing these numbers, we were a few days into the event and I needed to start figuring out how many of each ingredient I needed, so I just had to go with it. That's right, I kinda had to start without a plan because doing the calculations took forever. I made a chart, one side detailing what I have, and the other being how much of each ingredient I should have. I decided to do 15 high, 5 medium, and 20 low. For potatoes, I had to double that since that's the main ingredient, but the other ingredients, those were just the numbers I decided to aim for. Because of this event setup, I really only needed to run excursions at 3 locations, and it would give me everything I needed, and honestly, probably more. With things set up, I made a final game plan. Again, a few days into the event. I made 2 separate spreadsheets, one recording my personal account and the other my streaming account. I would record how many of each ingredient I had, what dishes I made, and within that record skill increases, what ingredient rarities I used, the judges' judging style and their scores, and how many stars the dish got. On my personal account, the control group, I would cook as I went. On my streaming account, I would spend the entire event farming and then on the final day, cook everything. Trying to make a game plan for farming was a literal nightmare. I really cannot emphasize just how incredibly stressed out I was. From the having to time my login so I wouldn't waste any time was a nightmare, to figuring out how many excursions I needed to do and which to do, I was not having a great time. Because drops are randomized, I really just had to go with the flow, which I hated. I switched off between 3 locations, rotating them out and sometimes running potatoes twice in a row because, again, the staple of the event. I had to keep an eye on my inventory to make sure I was hitting my target numbers. I wasn't really able to go hard in one location and then move on. To make sure I was using my time wisely, I just had to look at what I earned, what I needed, and then make a decision. On my personal account, I was doing fine and was not stressed. I wasn't paying attention to ingredient drops per se. I would just check what was cookable and then go do it. So, the results. Our main concern is how quickly I was able to finish the event, and by finish the event I mean unlock the final part of the story and earn the SR limited key. On my personal account, cooking as I went, I was able to finish the event in a week. On my streaming account, it took the entire event duration, so 7 days versus 10 days. It's not a huge difference on paper, but emotionally, yeah, you feel it. Now, if we want to go by time cooking, I didn't record how long I spent actually cooking on my personal account, like timing literally just sitting down and cooking things. Not gonna lie, I was so stressed with planning farming and all that other stuff for my streaming account that I didn't even think to record cooking times for my control group. I did more or less control it on my streaming account since I live streamed it, so I was sat for 2.5 hours more or less cooking on my streaming account. I know that sounds great, but again, 18 hours of farming every day for several days. I also overestimated how long it would take to get a 3-star dish. I got to 3 stars on cassava fries with the 60-80 method on attempt 18, so I guess sort of close. And then for potato salad rolls, I got a 3-star at attempt 14. Overall, how was my experience cooking as I went? Honestly, really chill. I finished within a week and I wasn't stressed. I did focus my efforts on making and 3-starring cassava fries, but after that, I just kinda did whatever. I went to whatever locations I wanted, I would check when I could make something, and I didn't stress about being right on the dot with my logins to do more excursions. And I was able to make one of every dish at least once. But on the other hand, I only earned enough tokens to complete the story and get the SR limited key. I didn't earn tokens to purchase the Culinary Crucible furniture or anything else in the event shop. I literally clocked out emotionally because I had to worry about other things. If you want to finish the event as soon as possible, or you just want to actually not want to die, this is the method I would recommend. On my streaming account, I was stressed even before the event began. It took me the whole 10 days to complete the event, with 18 hours each day of excursions and being very precise about logging in at the right time. And then sitting down to cook took over 2 hours. I had to be very particular about what food I made and how many of each ingredient I needed. And not gonna lie, sitting down and doing all the cooking in one go was awful. I was getting antsy by the end of it and extremely tired. I was able to make 4 of the 9 dishes in the end, because I was running 20-minute excursions through the live stream, so I was able to make more dishes than I had anticipated, but really, I ended up making loads of cassava fries because 1, guaranteed 30 tokens basically, and 2, I overestimated just how many ingredients I had laying around. The one good thing about this method was that I had so many ingredients and I can make so many dishes, I ended up cleaning out the event shop, both just the shop and then I got every Culinary Crucible furniture piece. But ultimately, I cannot recommend waiting until the end. It takes long, your stress levels are through the roof, Culinary Crucibles are usually pretty exhausting, but by waiting until the last minute, it was so much more stress, drawn out. And like I mentioned, if my internet went out or something, I would be extremely screwed. Waiting until the last minute to cook was a complete nightmare, and yeah, I was right, it's a bad idea. Don't do it, just don't do it. If you take one thing away from this, I want you to know just how utterly miserable it was waiting until the end. I have never been that stressed about a MasterChef event before, and believe me, I've had some bad runs. It was so bad, I had to give up on the milk event in JP because I was simply too stressed out with making sure my streaming account was on track. It's a horrible way to play the Culinary Crucible events. Do not do it. Thank you everyone for watching, and a very special thank you to my channel members and Twitch subs. Your support helps me to continue to make these videos. If you'd like early access to my videos, consider becoming a channel member. Patrons and Ko-fi members can get my scripts early before I record them. I livestream over on Twitch every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Thanks again guys, and I'll see y'all later.